Okay, so now we're on tip number 2. Okay, so I'm going through my 10 tips for becoming successful. And how I was able to come up with these tips was that I interviewed 16 role models within the UK, and I interviewed them, I asked them their stories, I asked them their secrets to success, and this is what they gave to me, okay? So take my word for it. If you can follow these 10 tips, watch these 10 videos, then I believe that you will start that journey to where you need to go, and you will be prepared for anything that will come along your way, and you'll be able to overcome things such as excuses, low self-esteem, fear of failure, fear of rejection, people's opinions, and you'll just become a go-getter and become unstoppable. Okay, so tip number 2, be willing to make sacrifices. Oh my gosh, sacrifices, that is correct. I truly believe that if you have a goal in mind, and for example your goal is to write a book, and you give yourself 5 months to write that book, your lifestyle will have to change for those 5 months, okay? So if you were somebody that would go to work 9 to 5, come home, cook and watch TV for the rest of the evening, you wouldn't be able to continue that lifestyle because you now have a goal to write a book. So you would now have to find time within your day, within your 24 hours, that you would set aside specifically targeted for writing your book, okay? So when I say make sacrifices, it's sacrifices that are necessary in order to achieve your goal. Sacrifices that make sense for that season, because in order for you to achieve something, something else has to change, or something else has to not be done as much. So another sacrifice that someone would have to make when they have a goal in mind, a dream they want to achieve, a job they want to go for, is, maybe their social time. So if there was somebody that would go to the pub, every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, then they would have to think, okay, the amount of time that I spend in the pub, could I now cut that down so that I would have more time to write a book? I managed to write my 3rd book called No More Excuses, Coaching Manual. I managed to write my 3rd book in 6 days. 6 days while I was working full-time in a manager position. How did I do that? I was willing to make the necessary sacrifices for that time. So as soon as I came back from work, I didn't go on the phone and start talking to my girls. I didn't go home and start watching, EastEnders, for those that live in London, you know what I'm talking about. I realised that I had a limited amount of time because of the time I had set for myself to write my book and have it published was 21 days. So when I broke that down into what I would need to do every day, it worked out to only having 6 days to write the book. And I was going to make it. There was no ifs or buts. I was going to complete my book and have it published within 21 days. So, because I was determined, I was dedicated, I was committed, and I had a big reason to why I had to achieve that goal, I was ready to make the sacrifices. So I need you to ask yourself, what sacrifices do you need to make in order to achieve the goal that you have in mind? If you have a goal to go back to university, or you want to study an evening course, and you might be a mum with children, you would have to work out your time so that you would be able to spend time with your children, but then be disciplined enough so that when they go to bed, that's when you can start your studying, or be good enough with your time that you can take the children to the neighbours while you go to university to study in the night and come back. So it's not about I'm going to suffer, while I'm achieving this goal. It's about doing what you need to do in order to see the end result. So when it comes to, making sacrifices, the first thing you have to ask yourself is, am I committed to this goal? And be honest with yourself. On a scale of 1 to 10, how committed am I? 1, not too bothered. 10, I have to. It's the most important thing to me. If you're close, to 10, then you have to get it done. And you can't afford to allow anything to get in the way. So my tip is be ready to make the necessary sacrifices, the necessary rearrangements in order to make sure that you have the environment and you have the lifestyle that you need to achieve your goal. There's many people who make sacrifices. For example, you have people that want to become singers. They have to be with their vocal coach often. You've got footballers who, want to become professional footballers, okay? So their sacrifice is, instead of hanging out with their friends, they're in the park training. I think 3 days a week they're doing football training. And it's hard work, it's hard, but it's worth it. So the sacrifices that you have to make, they have to be worth it. You have to see the point of making them, otherwise it's not going to make sense and you're going to fall back into the trap. So for instance, if one of your goals was to lose weight, you wanted to lose a certain amount of weight and you had a time frame to lose it in, and you realised that one of the things that were making you put on weight was the fact that you would eat late at night or you would eat unhealthy foods, then your sacrifice would be the unhealthy food. Why? Because you have a goal to lose weight and you have to do all that you can do to make sure that goal comes to pass. And then you would have to say to yourself, you'd have to weigh it up, okay? If my goal is to lose weight in 3 months' time, and 3 months' time comes and I'm still the same size, will I be happy? Now, if you ask yourself that question, and in your heart you would feel upset, you would feel like you had failed, you would feel like, just not how you would have wanted to have felt if you had achieved it, then you need to remember that feeling. Every time you go to put your hand in the cupboard to take that bar of chocolate or to eat the unhealthy food, remind yourself of that feeling of you not achieving that goal. Remind yourself of that feeling of you remaining the same weight. Remind yourself of the feeling of you saying you wanted to do something and never actually achieving it. And that should be enough to help you be comfortable with making the sacrifices. And believe me, once you achieve your goal, then you set yourself another goal. And it's all about developing habits, developing the discipline to stop doing things that are going to affect your journey and to start doing things that are going to impact your journey. There's a saying that says, life is not a rehearsal, you only get to live it once. So instead of, battling with whether you should make the sacrifice, whether you should stop doing this, whether you should go there, think, life is too short to not do what you want to do. So instead of torturing yourself and battling with yourself, get serious. Really ask yourself, if it's that important to me, then I just have to let it go. I just have to give it up. And the result that you will get from making that decision will be tremendous. I sacrificed the 21 days to write my book, to get it designed, to get it published. And I was able to launch it at my first No More Excuses career breakfast. And we had about 50 girls turn up, and nearly every one of them left with that book. And I know that everyone that has now read that book, somehow their life has changed. So I will now ask myself, was it worth it making those sacrifices? Was it worth it switching off the TV for that extra hour? Was it worth it not picking up my phone and just talking to my friends about nothing? Yes, it was. And I want you to understand that. Because if you can grab hold of that, if you can learn to make the necessary sacrifices when you need to, then you will be well on your way to achieving your goals and your dreams and becoming successful.